BRS President Jane Macdonald gives her views on multidisciplinary practice in PD.
Hello Jane. As President of the British Renal Society, can you tell us about the challenges of integrating PD knowledge across all of the multi-professional affiliates of BRS?
We're an umbrella organisation, so we have probably close on 15 associations now who are involved in BRS. Each of the professional groups, the social workers, the dietitians, the pharmacists, all have a unique skill set and are highly skilled. But we care for the PD patient as a team, and they need us at different stages through their pathway. So we learn together, we study together, we do research together, and we achieve more together as a team, I believe.
How do you believe EuroPD has helped and indeed continues to help with this challenge?
Well, we're delighted to have EuroPD here in Birmingham, very honoured indeed. To actually study PD as a therapy for 4 days in such a concentrated 4 days of expertise, research projects, early scientific news that's coming out, it's a unique opportunity for the community. But EuroPD is more than just a conference, and already we've heard the launch of some future projects that go on behind the scenes all year long. So Try PD was opened and discussed at the plenary yesterday, and the launch of the EPS study is also going to be here during conference as well. And we're hearing feedback from previous projects, excuse me, the BOLD project, some integrated strategies and tools. And all of these we can take straight away from conference and start to use in our day-to-day practice, so improving the care of the PD patients.
Okay, I've caught up with a couple of busy guys. David Johnson from Brisbane, Janusz Witowski from Poznan. These are the latter-day biocompatibility gurus. David, you're presenting some new data at this meeting, new and exciting data. Give us a flavour of it.
Well, we're going to talk about the BALANCE trial, which was a study of 185 incident peritoneal dialysis patients, followed over 2 years in 16 centres across Australia, New Zealand and Singapore. And essentially what the study showed that biocompatible fluid, and by that I mean neutral pH, lactate buffered, low GDP fluid, compared with conventional fluid, led to a significant improvement in residual renal function decline, particularly in the first 12 months of treatment, led to a seemingly prolonged or delayed time to anuria, substantially reduced time to first peritonitis by 50%, reduced peritonitis rates by 36%, improved peritoneal ultrafiltration, and led to better preservation of the peritoneal membrane compared with conventional fluid. So the results are quite exciting.
Well, it's dynamic data. Janusz, you're the scientific guru of biocompatibility. Explain this in the context of solution design.
So we are really excited by the data because we saw the benefits of new solutions in an in vitro setting. Now we can have proof that it also happens in vivo. We believe that long-term exposure to fluids devoid of GDPs with neutral pH will preserve the function of the peritoneal membrane for longer. And now we have the proof from David.
So David, does that mean all patients should be on biocompatible solutions?
I think the argument for it is a lot stronger now. I must admit I'm changing my practice. My practice up until the results of BALANCE were known was to restrict biocompatible fluids to patients with infusion pain. And now I'm having to rethink my position in light of the BALANCE trial results. I suspect in the fullness of time, in the absence of any other, in case any future bigger trials may come about, I think in the absence of that, it'll probably go the same way as hemo. We converted over from acetate to bicarbonate 20 years ago. I think the same will happen in peritoneal dialysis. It'll be a natural evolution.
And do you think that's related to all biocompatible solutions, irrespective of company?
Look, one can obviously, we obviously looked at BALANCE versus Stay Safe, so we've only restricted to one company. Not all biocompatible fluids are the same. Some biocompatible fluids have high levels of deoxyglucosone, so it's hard to know whether it will generalise. It may do, but we can't be certain.
Okay guys, thank you very much for your time. Okay, I've caught up with Anabela Rodrigues and James Heaf to have a reprise of the debate about whether we should stop PD after 4 years. Anabela, your opinion, please.
Actually, I had a challenging task to defend that patients should stop PD after 4 years. It was quite provocative. I tried to do my message showing that we must individualize therapy and decision, and we must be alert towards signs of risk, but actually there is not a definite date to transfer patient obligatorily. I mean, 4 years, it's not a definite date. You should see patients and be alert for the signs of risk. That's my message.
And James, you were conning the debate.
The trouble was that I was in complete agreement with you. This was that, of course, we should individualise treatment, and that the patient who is doing poorly on PD, developing problems with overhydration, ultrafiltration, failure, hyperglycemia, should, of course, be switched to hemodialysis. But my attitude was that, of course, there should be no definite expiry date for peritoneal dialysis. What I was mainly interested in is the discussion going on about EPS, whether you can reduce the incidence of EPS by having an expiry date. And my conclusion was that there's actually no guarantee that you might not even increase the incidence of EPS if you had a fixed expiry date, simply because the incidence of EPS goes up after you stop PD. And that's presumably because PD may be causing EPS, but it's also protecting against EPS, presumably by washing all the inflammatory cytokines out of the peritoneum. And then when PD stops, then the process starts.
What about patient choice in this?
This is important in the profile of the patient. We must alert the patient that although PD is for life, sometimes the patient should have to be transferred, and she would be educated on this process. And what I have also mentioned is if a patient has to be transferred, why not to think about continuous self-care and home therapy and home hemodialysis. This was also a message if a patient is indicated to be transferred. Try home hemodialysis, which is also a good option. That's what I also advocated.
And you would agree with that in terms of patient choice?
Yes, well, I showed a patient who'd been on PD for 16 years and was still well. And of course, it would have been a catastrophe for this lady to have been transferred to hemodialysis 10 years ago, which would have happened to be, that was the conclusion of the debate. The problem is now, 16 years on, she's actually developing ultrafiltration failure. Still well, doing very well on PD. Now the question is, what should I advise this lady? I'm trying to get her onto home hemodialysis, but I've also told her that if I do this, I may actually exacerbate a potential EPS that's on the way. So it's her choice. I just advise.
But I think that there are instruments to monitorize patients and be quite in time to do an opportune transfer. For instance, monitoring peritoneal membrane status and function. It is a good way to anticipate the storm, as I told in my conference. So just use the instruments we have now and to update these instruments to check for the good well-being of our patients and the PD.
There's a fascinating study by Birmingham that's just been published in Nephrology, Dialysis and Transplantation, where they've been doing sophisticated peritoneal equilibration tests and studying dialysis effluent, and they are actually able to predict which patients will develop EPS. And that, of course, is for me a major advance, because then you can just say, you're doing okay on PD. Our figures show that you will continue to do well on PD. Just stay with it, and the next patient say, well, look, you look as though you're at increased risk for EPS. What should we do about that?
Anabela, James, thank you very much. Like all good debates, you ended up agreeing with each other.
And we're partners.
Thank you very much.